Good evening and welcome to our June 2014 Google Plus Hangout. And today we're going to talk about questions about New Jersey traffic law. Now, a lot of times you can end up in traffic court in New Jersey, the local municipal courts, either because you violated a traffic law or because you've committed a minor offense, what other states would call a misdemeanor. We call a disorderly persons or petty disorderly persons offense, and they're minor criminal or quasi-criminal infractions, but they're handled at the municipal court level. And I say that because we do have a question from a viewer that isn't strictly traffic court or traffic violation, but does deal with some problems that you can run into in traffic court, and you might know someone in a similar situation. So let's get to the questions. First question is a common one, and this is a law that a lot of people that live in New Jersey don't know about. And I can see that just from being in their cars, and that has to do with your GPS device. This viewer writes in and says, I have a GPS unit in my car that attaches to the windshield with a suction cup holder. The cop pulled me over for speeding and also gave me a ticket for the GPS. Can he do that? Yes, he can. Under New Jersey law, it's not a moving violation. It's a regulatory violation, and it's called obstructed view. And basically, in New Jersey, you cannot have anything attached to the windshield that can block your view of the road ahead of you. Create an artificial blind spot because you got something stuck up against the windshield. Now, there are obviously a couple of exceptions. One, of course, is your rear view mirror. And the other is a specific exception carved out in the statute for an easy pass tag. If you have an easy pass tag attached up there, it's usually in a spot that is behind the rear view mirror, or simply from at least from the driver's seat, usually behind the rear view mirror, and not usually seen. So there are those two exceptions. But other than that, you can't attach anything to the windshield. Now, this is New Jersey, believe it or not, is one of 2 states in the Union, 2 states out of 50, that actually have laws that says you can't attach it to the rear view, to the windshield. All the other states allow it. California is the other state, and they did change their laws fairly recently. You can attach it to the windshield. The problem is the way in which you're allowed to do it is not very practical. You can either attach it in the lower left corner of the windshield, or all the way over to the lower right corner over by the passenger side, which isn't exactly a convenient spot to put a GPS unit. So, for all intents and purposes, California is the other state that doesn't allow it. So, they can ticket you for that. It's not an expensive ticket. It's a lesson learned. But what I would do is go out and get one of those freestanding GPS unit holders. Most GPSs come packaged with the suction cup holder. I had to go out, because I knew about this law, I had to go out and get a separate holder that's sort of a little, it's a weighted base that you attach the GPS unit to, and it can sit on your dashboard and then come up and look at it. So it's not attached to your windshield, and you can still see the GPS unit. It's in a good spot. You can adjust it, but it sits on the dashboard. And quite honestly, from what a lot of people tell me, it's really from a security standpoint, the better way to do it, because thieves go around, and if you use the suction cup, it often leaves a little circular mark on the windshield. And there are thieves that look around to see if there's that mark on the windshield, which would indicate there's a GPS unit in the car, and they'll break into the car to steal it. So this is really an even safer way to use your GPS. A lot of times, other ways to get in trouble on this, sometimes people hang something to the rear view mirror. Whether or not that, strictly speaking, obstructs your view or is within the scope of the statute that talks about obstructive view is another matter. But really, I wouldn't hang anything from your rear view mirror. There are some very small parking tags for permit parking and things like that. A lot of them will attach to the back of the rear view mirror so it doesn't dangle down, and others dangle not very far down. But that's an issue. You really don't want it. It's just an added hassle. And also it can give the police probable cause to pull you over. There's a case in which somebody ended up facing drug charges because he had drugs in the car, and the police originally pulled him over for having these little boxing gloves, little toy boxing gloves on a chain hanging from his rear view mirror. And the courts on appeal and talking about it said, well, those boxing gloves may not have violated the statute, but it did give the police probable cause to stop them, which led to other charges. So basically, don't hang anything from the rear view mirror, and if you have a GPS unit you're using in New Jersey, get a freestanding holder for it and just put on the dashboard. A second question, I'm a school teacher and was recently charged with bouncing a check at a local grocery store. I went to the local court and the prosecutor told me that I could lose my job over this. Is it true? And this is what I was talking about, that the smaller petty crimes and criminal matters are handled in traffic court and municipal court. This is one of them. If the check was for groceries for maybe $100, something like that, it wasn't a lot of money, if you're in trouble for bouncing a check, this can cause a problem for you if you're a public employee. You can lose your public sector job in one of two ways. You either are charged with something that involves dishonesty, fraud, theft by deception, things like that, and bouncing checks is one of them. The other is you're convicted of a crime or an offense that touches upon your duties as a public employee. Well, clearly the check problem, the check bouncing thing, doesn't touch upon your job as a teacher. You're just buying food, but it does involve dishonesty, so you have to be careful. The good news is that there is a way of dealing with it and trying to avoid it. You have to be proactive, and I would recommend you get an attorney to help you with these charges and represent you. You can get a forfeiture waiver in which the court agrees to waive any forfeiture of public employment, but that you have to handle it carefully. It's not always granted. You have to apply to either the Attorney General or the county prosecutor, and this has to be done after the plea deal is made. So you make the deal with the prosecutor for the plea, but you don't actually enter the plea before the judge until you have that forfeiture waiver. So that way, if you get the waiver and you have it before you plead guilty, you then can save your job even though you pled guilty. The other way to do it is simply to plead to a lesser charge. Plead to something else that does not involve dishonesty. So if you just plead to something else, you don't have to get the waiver, and then you're not facing the loss of your job. So I would recommend you do that. But just as a note on this, as I said, the other way that you can lose your job is if you commit the offense and that touches upon your employment. What does that mean? Well, where you're a teacher and you bounced a check, that's one thing. And you can lose your job, but it's not like you can't get another job later in the public sector, teacher somewhere else, or some other public employment. But if you're convicted of a crime that touches upon your employment, then you can lose permanently public employment. Not only the job you have now, but you can be barred from any future public employment. Let's say you're a teacher, you give the same example, you didn't bounce a check, but you really got frustrated with a student and you hit the student. You didn't really harm the child, but you hit him. And that's simple assault. And you're charged with that, and lose your job as a teacher, and you can never be a public employee again. So it's very serious, and you have to be careful about that. But that's what's called a public employment forfeiture, and it's serious. The third question is, I have a probationary license and got a ticket for speeding going 53 and a 35. Is there a way to avoid points? I just got my license. Well, this is not the way to start out your driving career. And unfortunately, you cannot avoid points. Whereas someone with a conventional, unrestricted driver's license has the option in New Jersey of pleading to something called unsafe operation, which avoids points. Involves not only the same fine as speeding, but a $250 surcharge. So you pay good money to avoid the points, but you don't get them. You're able to avoid them. With a graduated driver's license, a probationary license, you can't do that. You can't plead below 2 points. Now, there's somewhat good news here in that you're charged going 53 and a 35, which is a 4-point speeding ticket. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to plead to the 4 points, but you can downgrade it to maybe going 40 and a 35, which is a 2-point ticket. And that minimizes things. And there, you may think that, well, 2 points, 4 points, where's the real benefit? Well, there's a big benefit, because with a graduated driver's license, if you accumulate 3 or more points, then you have to complete a driver improvement program. Whereas someone with a conventional driver's license may only face surcharges if he has 6 points, or suspension of his license at 12 points. If you accumulate more than 3 points, you're going to have to take this driver improvement program. If you don't complete the driver improvement program and/or get another offense with more points, that'll result in a suspension of your graduated driver's license and postponement for eligibility of the next license up. A GDL if you have a permit, or a conventional license if you have a GDL. So you do have to be careful about that. But there is a benefit of pleading down to the 2-point ticket. You just can't plead it all the way down to none. And unfortunately, if you have something that got you 1 point and you get that 2-point speeding ticket, then you're at 3 points. There's really not much you can do. But in your case, you're telling me that it's your first ticket. You just got the license. So what I would do is go in, talk to the prosecutor, and see if they'll plead it down to something with just 2 points to try and minimize the damage, but there's really not much else you can do. So those are our questions for this month on New Jersey traffic laws. Next month, we're going to be, what's our date here? Well, it's always the fourth Thursday. That's the 24th of July. And on July 24th, we're going to be talking about New Jersey drunk driving law. So if you have any questions on that, New Jersey is pretty strict and has some heavy penalties for drunk driving. So if you're interested in that, be sure to tune in July 24th at 5 p.m. And even more, if you have questions, be sure to email them to me at steve@richardsonlawoffices.com. You can also tweet them to @SJRLaw, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. So that's it for our June 2014 Hangout. I'll see you next month.